Welcome to the While You Were Working podcast, presented by Rogue Marketing. When you're responsible for revenue, it's hard to look up from the work, but while you're doing your day job, the market shifts. While You Were Working is where we turn today's trends into tomorrow's strategies. Welcome to While You Were Working.
Welcome to While You Were Working, the podcast for revenue accountable business leaders wanting to stay ahead of the curve. It's hard to keep up with the trends and insights shaping business when you're busy driving growth. The world moves fast while you're working, and on today's episode, we're going to shake it up just a bit. Today, you have both managing partners of Rogue Marketing. I'm Chip Rosales, and this is my partner, James Loomstein. Rogue is a strategic marketing agency that helps clients defend their marketing spend. We're business builders who carry a marketing toolbox, and we're so glad you've joined us. Now, on each podcast episode, and multiple times each week on our social channels, we share articles and resources that can shape your business thinking that are really easy to miss while you're working. Today, we're going to spend the entire episode sharing our perspective on resources we've recently seen that we think listeners like you might value. I wanted to kick us off with some charts showing what motivates buyers to share your business content. And so this research was actually done by Redpoint, and they found that 61% of B2B buyers are going to share content that analyzes a data set that's related to their industry. And my favorite part of all of this, if you look on the chart, it says 57% are going to share content that has interviews of peers or industry experts. And so what I love about that, Rogue Nation, is I want you to be sharing our podcast because we're bringing in great interviewers and great experts each and every episode. But less than 25% of buyers are going to share content that is how-to content or that doesn't have any sort of original research. So I feel like that's kind of clever or interesting. It's counterintuitive because that's what the marketplace is doing. We're doing all this how-to, we're doing all of this educational type of content, and buyers are not willing to share that. There's another chart that we saw. It's similar, except that this time the question focuses on what kind of content boosts perception of a company's expertise. So you want to be seen as an expert, this is the kind of content you want to put out there. And again, analysis of a data set and interviews of peers or industry experts, you'll see that they actually raise. They're both above 60% this time. But my favorite thing here and the most interesting component is that case studies, everybody thinks you should do these case studies, right? Case studies, how-tos, and educational content actually ranks the lowest, below 35%. So we're spending so much time trying to find case studies, and I think the missing link there is that we're not actually interviewing people or getting that peer perspective on there, that people won't share it because it looks like it's just a marketing piece. So my analysis on this is that we need to be investing in research, engaging with peers, talking on camera with industry experts when we can. If you want your content shared, that's what you need to do. Do you hear anything in that as well, James? Like anything you think would be interesting?
So I think there's kind of basically three types of search out there. I think there's like informational, navigational, and commercial. And so as you're putting out this content or peer information, I think it is important that we're sharing stories about our companies, that we're not focused on the how-to because we've done that for so many years. And then we also think about like, not necessarily like what are they going to do with that information, but like how do we level up our own expertise in our organizations so we are that trusted, knowledgeable partner that they're confident that they can come in and solve problems for.
So if you don't have research in there and you don't have some sort of analysis on your own, then you're kind of missing out, and that's an opportunity for any CRO, any marketing leader to be putting in there. One of the things that's really been interesting, you just recently came back from a conference not too long ago, and there was this really interesting concept that we've had an opportunity to talk about with all sorts of clients called zero-sum marketing. What did you hear about that, and what's important for our listeners to know about zero-sum marketing?
I think the takeaway is that this digital marketing era, we are in year 24, 25, 26 of that, and we've kind of like maxed out the number of people on the internet. Like, everyone's on the internet. Now, there are some exceptions. There are some places that still have growth. Asia is still a growing market.
Africa's got a place.
But in the US, like everyone's on the internet. So if you think about it that way, the cup is already full to the top, right? And so if a business is going to go out there and market to somebody, then that means if they're going to go on a platform like Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, well, then someone has to lose. And so all we're doing now is the pieces are already laid out. And now we're just shifting from one to the other. So if I go on Facebook, that means we are losing out on the YouTube when someone else is taking our spot. So we're not able to really go in and dominate markets as much as we used to. Like, you can't just throw money at it and win. You have to actually be more strategic about, hey, where are these buyers at? Which channels are best for us? And if we're doing that, then we're taking away our opportunity on somewhere else. So we have to make sure that we're doubling down on the kind of the right tools and the right platforms.
Yeah, I mean, that makes so much sense because, and I think one of the articles that we're probably going to share in a little bit too talks about how social media is greening, and, like some of the predictions are that social media is still growing. Well, how is it growing when you're talking about zero-sum marketing? And the thing is, it is growing, but it doesn't mean that our attention spans or if you've been spending 15 hours on the internet, you're not going to now start spending 16.
Correct.
Like
the pie is the pie.
15 hours is 15 hours, and that's a lot of time, and how it gets divided up is really interesting. So I think zero-sum marketing is a really important concept that we need to be paying much more attention to, because somebody's going to lose. Another something we've been talking about, and this is also just fascinating, is that there are 5 generations of
First time in history.
people in the workplace right now, the workforce. And the way that we prioritize engagement is changing. Talk to us a little bit about some of what we heard and some of what we've been learning.
So for the first time in history, we have 5 generations working in the workforce. Everything from Gen Zs to literally up to baby boomers. All right, so if we are a company and we are trying to position our products and services, we not only have to think about which are channels and distributions that we're going to choose and what platforms we're going to choose to be on, we actually have to think about like who that buyer is and how they are engaging on that platform. And so what do I mean by that? If you were to take a Gen Xer, right, or older, and they're 45, 50, 55, the oldest Gen X is now 60 years old, which is fascinating, right? All right, so if you take this 46-year-old buyer and how they make decisions, how they move through that customer journey.
How do you make those decisions, James?
Every day. So how they move from awareness to consideration to purchase, loyalty to advocacy is far different than a Gen Y, which is far different than Gen Z.
Sure.
And so if you take even your Gen Zs now and your millennials are mid-level directors, VPs. And so if that's the audience we want to be in front of, then how are they consuming content? What channels are they using? What platforms? And then what sort of, even ad units are they more attracted to versus an older Gen X buyer?
I think it even ties back to that very first article, just about what do people prioritize and what do they do. Now you're starting to see that melding of things that become important. But this idea of how do I get a peer to talk to me? Is it on a podcast? Is it in an advertisement? Is it on a case study? Those things, start to matter. So it's not, you have to not only be getting the right peer and the right research. Now you have to deliver it in the way that matters for each of those 5 generations.
The right packaging matters more probably even than the content's important, but if you don't have the right packaging around it and the right delivery mechanism, then no one hears the message anyway.
Yeah, so good. All right, well, at Rogue, we happen to love contradictions. We love to explore contradictions because what happens there is that you can see that paradox that seems to be really, really smart. And so this is an article that I just absolutely love because people are predictably irrational. Thank you, Dan Ariely.
Yes.
Forrester recently put out 2 reports about the 2025 consumer, and it's definitely showing a mixed bag of contradictions. So, for example, it says that privacy concerns continue to matter. People want to protect their personal data. I think if you went and asked anybody on the street, they're going to say those 2 things. Yes, those things matter. But 4 out of 10, 40% of people, and this was across all age gaps, at least, they're willing to give up all of that personal data and protection for AI convenience.
I think you hit it with convenience.
They love it with the word convenience, right? So that's an interesting contradiction. Yes, safety and personal data protection matters, but if you give me something super convenient like ChatGPT, Gemini, AI agent, what do you need? Take it. Yeah, you can have whatever you want. So interesting for our business teams to know. Okay, another thing, brand loyalty is expected to drop 25%. And you might be hearing that a lot of brands now are beginning to spend more money on brand awareness and brand building. They've seen that they've neglected it enough times that they're trying to get back to it. You've probably even seen some of that as well.
I have. I think there's something that companies probably, every company, it's always good to go out and get new customers. Like that's always the target, right? I don't think that we, businesses and brands, do a good enough job of looking inside about how do we get more from the people we already have. And so brand building is important. I think reinforcing our brand message to our consumers and almost protecting that. It's almost like the zero sum game, right? Like if someone is with me, they want to stay. People don't want to make changes.
It's not convenient.
It's not convenient. And we're forcing them to make changes. And so if we were to do a better job as brands and companies about being in front of our customers, showing them our new products and services, and that we can actually solve future problems for them, they'll actually be more open to it now than they probably were years ago because they don't want to make changes. They want it to be convenient and they want to work with us, but we have to give them a reason to continue to work with us.
All right. So brand building, it says, is on the drop. It's going to drop 25%. People are starting to see the writing on the wall and they are starting to course correct, if you will. But the contradiction here is that the use of loyalty programs is on the increase.
Yeah.
And the interesting conundrum on that is that buyers really aren't really loyal per se.
Yeah.
They like price protections. And so if the loyalty program allows them to get some sort of price or discount, then yes, they will use the loyalty program, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are loyal to your brand. So that's a real interesting contradiction for all our e-commerce friends out here and all the people who are, all listening, our commerce friends, consumer friends, excuse me, because just because they're using your loyalty program does not mean they're loyal. Another interesting tidbit that you can check out, there's many things you can check out in the actual report, but a last one that I thought was kind of good for anyone in our sales and marketing world is that despite all the negative coverage about social media usage is going to grow 10%, it says. So it's still a great place to entertain. It's still a great place to interact at all of those different stages of the purchase. But like we were mentioning earlier on that zero-sum game, if more eyes are going to be spent on social, that means that there's going to be less time spent somewhere else. So you need to be, planning your strategic investments accordingly.
I think to that point, not only moving to social, but I think there's more of an opportunity now for community. And so if you're a brand, probably the recommendation or the insight would be, hey, let's look at how do we build community inside of this platform. So is it Facebook and a group? Is it creating Facebook messaging? Is it LinkedIn in a group? Is it some sort of chat? Is it Discord? Is it Telegram? Like, what are the ways that we're able to bring people into our community? Because we're not going to go out and create a community and a platform like they're already existing, right? So we need to find out, A, where the audience is, and then 2, how do we build a community where they're already naturally hanging out, and then exploit that and use it and leverage it to be able to show them our other products and services so we can increase our average order size, so we can cross promote and cross sell, so we can increase our lifetime value. Like, I think companies need to think about more on how do we get more out of our customers that we already have versus how do we go off and conquest and take over new customers.
Well, community is a perfect segue into saying we'd love for you to join our community. So this is all the time we have for this particular episode, but that you can find all the links to these resources in our show notes. We'd also invite you to follow us on social media. So you can search Rogue Marketing on Facebook and X or Rogue Marketing Agency on LinkedIn. We are regularly sharing insights and articles that you might have missed, while you were working.